You're not generating $10 million doing your one thing. You haven't arrived yet. You're not good enough yet.
This episode is with Mike Michalowicz, who wrote the book on profiting first and is going to teach us step-by-step playbooks for you guys to profit and make money right now in your business.
To have a successful business, there's an intersection of three key elements you have to nail. What sales does is it can bring in more cash, but also brings in more organizational stress. You have more responsibility now. Our customers will never say to your face, you know, your business kind of sucks. But what they will do is go online and slam your reputation. So you can't trust their words, but you can trust their wallet. I got a magical Jedi mind trick question. I guess I got two that will blow your mind away. First question.
We've been blown away by how fast the show is growing. Like, getting to hang out with you every single week is so cool. But most of the people who tune in every week still haven't subscribed, which is crazy. It is the simplest way, though, to help us keep scaling, bringing the best guests like Mike Michalowicz and making the big deal a big deal. So I can't thank you enough for your support. Like, we would be nowhere without you guys. And I just want to jump back into my conversation with Mike, but I also want you to do it subscribed. Oh, and share it with a friend if you like this episode. I think it's better when you profit together, you know?
Can I start with some kind of real challenges, rapid fire, that we've heard from owners?
Yeah, throw them at me.
Okay. What if you're a business owner, you're weeks away from running out of money? You're kind of panicked, you don't know what to do next. What's your first move if you call Mike?
All right, so first thing is you acknowledge you're pretty much every business owner on the planet. There's a saying that most businesses are on the brink of failure. And the statistics show that most businesses don't have enough cash flow for 4 weeks. But my analysis, and I love contrarian thinking, my analysis is most businesses are not on the brink of failure because most businesses find a way to survive that moment. Somehow, some way, most businesses, yet again, doggy paddle and get above water. So I think most businesses are on the brink of success. It's just a good strategic move. So what we do, if a business like that calls, and I also invest in businesses, we do what's called reclamation services. We go into businesses that are specifically in struggle, is we go through the client base, we deploy the Pareto principle, 80-20 rule, identify who the best customers are and say, hey, what can we do right now to serve you? Because they're already the best customers. We get revenue in that way. We usually cut the lowest 20% of customers because inevitably they are costing you money and you don't even see it. It's like, oh, I'm making revenue, this is great. The expenses are in excess of the revenue, and the emotional weight is killing you. So we get rid of the unfit customers, we amplify the best customers, then we start realigning the business around that.
I love it. So two moves. You call up your best customers and say, basically, you're asking them, but not this way, how can we sell you more things? Which is, exactly. What else do you need, and how do we increase the LTV of every single person?
Yeah, and you tell them you love them. Like, when you tell a customer, hey, you're such an important customer to me, I value you so much, I just want to see if there's any other way to serve you. Yeah. Reciprocity kicks in. They're like, we love you too. And we were thinking about getting this. Can you do it? Yeah.
I love that. Okay. What do you do for someone who has more revenue than they've ever had before, but is actually making less profit?
That, again, is every business I know. I was speaking yesterday at an event, and I asked the group, it's similar size. I said, who wants to increase their revenue? Everyone's like, that's what we need to do. That's the solution. I said, arguably, that's one of the most dangerous things to do because it's a reckless belief. We believe that sales cures everything, and that is total nonsense. Total nonsense. What sales does is it can bring in more cash, but also brings in more organizational stress. You have more responsibility now, more things you need to service. So when a business says we're cranking up revenue, I am looking to see, are they doing it through diversifying their offering, which I think is a mistake. Instead of becoming special, they're doing many things and they dilute their ability, they're not efficient. We'll look, are they serving customers with varying demands? Customers that are perhaps big names, but then they assert their strength. I had a client of mine I worked with, Walmart was their best customer, #1 in revenue. We looked at them, their demands were off the charts. They said, when you deliver your product, it was like a bracelet thing, they said, it's gotta come on a Monday at 10:30 in the morning, and if you're outside like a 5-minute window, we're gonna penalize you. If the SKU, that UPS code, if it's more than a 1/4 inch below the top of the box, we're gonna penalize you. And Walmart does this for efficiency, that's why they do it. But my client, they were they saw that as good revenue. It was crushing them with the penalties. Their number 2 customer was Dollar General. Is that around here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dollar General's like, hey, deliver it whenever you can because we're always playing second fiddle to Walmart. So, Cody, you'll love this. Here's what he did. He put a sign above his desk, and he had 15 employees. The sign says this: our policy is to answer the call on the first ring. If it's the Dollar General, answer the call and start taking their order. And if Walmart calls, let it go to voicemail and then call them back when you're done. The miraculous thing was the next one. It said, we always answer in the first ring. If the first call is Walmart, start taking their order. But while you're on the phone with Walmart, if Dollar General calls, immediately hang up on Walmart. Like, say, sorry, we have an emergency. Disconnect and prioritize. So they're not cutting off customers or revenue, but they're prioritizing the quality revenue. It transformed his business. It was a family business. It was 25 years old. They were struggling to get 4 million. It went 4, 18, 27, sold it.
You know what's crazy too, and we'll take you guys through this process. So you'll go through a process where you basically analyze your cash flow, and we'll use a 13-week rolling cash flow, which I love. And then we'll also talk to you about your underlying clients. What's your best avatar versus your worst? Because I think a lot of times we lump our business all together. We don't know what customers cost us to get, and we certainly don't know what customers cost us to keep. And it's not because we're bad operators, it's because we're busy. And it's sort of hard. And so it takes this pause and analysis. And the truth of it is, your team is not going to do that. That is going to have to be a you thing at most levels of the business.
That is brilliant. I'll add to that, there's a real simple strategy that we've deployed. And what you do is you sort your clients out over the last year, the revenue they've generated for you. And the reason is people lie to each other constantly because it's social grace. Like when you saw me, like, hey, Mike, it's so good to see you. I'm a huge fan. I'm like, are you, Cody? Are you? But
I am.
Thank you. But could you imagine you come up to me and say, oh, your books really suck, Mike? Like, you can't do that because of social grace and not be like, well, that's offensive. And then we get into this disagreement. Or our customers will never say to your face, you know, your business kind of sucks. Poop 911's here. Oh, it's kind of like more turd 411. You know what I'm saying? like they're never gonna. That was a good one. That was good. That was juicy. But they would never say that to you. But what they will do is go online and slam your reputation. So you can't trust their words, but you can trust their wallets. So don't trust words, trust wallets. If they buy from you repeatedly or they're demonstrating they value you. But there's a second test. It's the intersection of them valuing you, spending money, with your appreciation and enjoyment of them. So when the car ID pops up on your phone, are you like, oh my gosh, they're amazing? Or are you like, oh gosh, I wish they didn't exist? Which one do you pick? Because if you have a customer that generates a lot of revenue, but you don't like working with them, you automatically, inherently, subconsciously perhaps, deprioritize their service. You don't call them back as quickly, you delay it, you avoid it. So we want the intersection of best customers that you love working with, circle those customers and start to clone them. And what I mean by cloning them, I find out where they congregate, where's their associations or communities, where's the people like them hanging out, and I'm gonna insert myself there.
That's so good. Yeah, we obsess on client avatars, and I feel like the number one thing that most people do wrong in business is they sell demographically as opposed to really nailing their avatar. Like I've never met a 45 to 65-year-old male 40% of the time and 60% of the time a woman. I mean, these days, who knows? But historically, no. And so, you know, I really like this idea of what are the characteristics of this type of avatar? And then how do we go after them?
Yeah, and look for the congregation points. So when I'm targeting a market, I'll say, is there an association for this? You know, this is when I'm selling B2B. Is there an association? Is there some kind of meetups or something like that? For example, maybe I'm serving pilots, retired pilots. Well, I'd say, is there a retired pilot association? Which actually I know there is. So that's an opportunity. They're already congregating. But if I look for single moms who hate their mom, that demographic exists, perhaps even in this room. But do they have a meetup club? Maybe not. If they don't have a congregation point, you have to assemble it yourself. It is the most exhausting, time-consuming effort. It rarely fails. So when someone says, I have a niche, it's, you know, I serve single moms who don't like their moms. I'm like, that's not a niche because you have to now assemble them together. But if you're serving the airline retired pilot association, I know where they're going. They may have a dedicated podcast and you insert yourself there and they see you ubiquitously. They see you everywhere.
So good. Let's zoom out for a second. What does everyone get wrong about making money in business?
Okay, So this is very opinionated. It ain't about the money. And you probably heard that before. And when you don't have the money, it's very easy to say. I mean, it's very easy to focus on the money. And then when you do have the money, it's very easy to say it ain't about the money. My perspective is both. So I became a multimillionaire when I was in my early 30s. I had an exit to Fortune 500, Robert Half International. You've sold quite a bit.
I do remember
You remember them? They had account temps, office temps.
Yeah.
I was doing computer crime investigation, and the Enron trial broke. My company, right place, right time, we got the Enron trial. Now, to give context, we were not the prosecution. That's the FBI, the CIA, we were the defense. So if you remember names like Kenneth Lay, Andrew Fastow, they were our clients. They were guilty, by the way. That was their defense. They were guilty. And we got put on the map very quickly. What I assumed was, when I sold that business, and it was a lot of money, I was like, I've arrived. But I really didn't. What I did, and I'm embarrassed to admit this, but it's important to admit it, is I thought I had to show the effect. So I bought all the stable of cars. I got a private place out in Lanai, which is an island owned by Larry Ellison now. For sabbatical, we got a place in a very affluent town in New Jersey where I live. And I'm like, look how important I am, people. And like, no one gives two craps. Then, total idiot, I blew all my money because I thought I knew everything. I knew very little. And with the collapse, no one really cared either. No one really cares. I found the essence of a good business is that it's an expression of our purpose. Like, I know from the interviews I listened that you do, from the literature you put out, you're such an authentic, real human, that this platform is an expression of who you are. Listen, your mom is here. The last time my mom came, I was doing like a puppet show in 3rd grade. Like, that's a dream to have your mom here. Which also indicates the authenticity in this. I think too many entrepreneurs go for the money only to find out that was a mistake. We gotta go for it because it's an expression of our heart. That's my opinion.
It's so true. And you know what else is crazy that I love that you talk about often? That statement, it's never about the money, was so triggering to me when I didn't have any money. I'm like, that's cute, Mike. Like, give me $1 million, I'll figure it out.
Right.
But what I've increasingly realized is you never don't have enough money, you don't have enough knowledge.
That's right.
Because if you had more knowledge, you'd see that there are 372 ways to get the cash.
Yeah.
And the real question is just like, what's the best way? Like what's the best game you want to play? What's the right game you want to play for you? Who's the right investor? What's the right way to get capital? Like, it's just, then it becomes what's the right fit, never just, it doesn't exist, why don't I have it?
Yeah.
If I could impart one thing to people more often, it would be that. And that you can make money doing anything, which is great. Pooper scooper. Like, we're just, also everybody should just wear their business shirts here, because look how much marketing, you guys are gonna have like an ad on this podcast. It costs $1 billion, not for you two. Poop 911, call my ladies.
Do you mind if I flip it on? I got a question for you.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So when it comes about money, I heard recently, and I've experienced this, and I'm curious about you, is there's not a single person who's ever had enough money. So I was talking to personal finance experts as this interview series, and consistently I heard, wherever someone is financially today, they feel their freedom is double of their current worth. So if you're worth $100,000, when I get a $200,000, I'm good. And people too are saying 4, and people in mill are saying 2. So I'm curious, have you arrived financially?
Oh, no.
No, right?
Never.
Bullshit.
I know, is that
But
crazy?
also true.
Yeah.
And me neither.
Well, even like Mom, we were having this walk this morning. Remember what you asked me? She was like, aren't you proud? Like, the headquarters, and look how everything's grown. And because most of my businesses have been remote for many, many years. I ran businesses where we had people all over the world. She's like, you have look, I can touch it, or do you take a second? And I literally was like, it feels like, what did I say? We haven't scratched the surface yet. So I totally think about it zero at any level, but it's also because I love the game. Not necessarily like I want the bank account to be bigger. I still have, don't get me wrong. I mean, what do you ask me? Every time she sees me, she asks me, but who takes care of the money at your company? Every time, don't you? She's always like, but who's the CFO? Who's in charge of making sure you don't run out of money? Because if you didn't grow up with any money, that's like deep inside all of us. We're just like, but who's in charge, and are they stealing from us? Yeah. And the answer is like, yeah, people are gonna steal from you at some point. That is true. And it'll also be fine, and you'll keep going. But yeah, I agree. I don't think there's ever enough, but if you can flip it to stop talking about the dollar amount and start talking about like, it's never enough because I just want to see what am I capable of? Like I want to die having squeezed every last drop out of me. That's when I think it starts to get fun.
100.
You've seen the rarest of things, which is you lost it all.
Yeah.
And I think that is off. How many people here are almost more scared of people knowing that you lost it all and like seeing the flame out than actually not having the cash? Who else? I see a lot of nodding.
Yeah.
Like I think that is what scares us. But you're a perfect example of like, I was there. Nobody fucking cared and I'm fine.
No one cares.
That's wild.
Like no one cares. And it is true that saying that the people who do care don't matter and the people that matter, do care.
Wait, can I ask you a question? Did you have a very dark moment then when you were like, I lost everything. This is how I defined myself. Who am I?
Yeah. You want to go there?
Okay. Just in front of our 20 new best friends.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I wrote about it in my book. So this is the moment. So become a millionaire. I buy all these things. I got to start off with the arrogance I had. I bought a Land Rover, a BMW, and a Dodge Viper, all within 4 hours on the same day. Thanks for laughing. Right? And I thought, and the Viper was because in college, I saw the Viper. I said, when I arrive one day, I'll get it. I got this place out in Hawaii for a sabbatical. I joined a club. I also started investing. I invest in a whole different way now. I used to do basically private equity, putting in, but small tranches, angel, 50, 100, 200, all these different businesses. And this arrogant dick was like, oh, it doesn't matter if you're here, Cody. Mike's here. Here's the money. We have me. I have the Midas touch. I believed my own story. And there is, I looked up in the Webster Dictionary, there is a word for someone who has arrogance and ignorance. The word is dick. It's true. It is true. I was a total dick. And the Dodge Viper is like the winning trophy for dicks. Like, I, within 2 years, evaporated all that wealth. I lost every penny, Cody. And I'll never forget, my accountant calls me. It was February 14th, 2008, Valentine's Day. And he says, Mike, you have to declare bankruptcy. I didn't have enough money to pay my tax bill that year, and it wasn't even a tax bill. I came home. I have 3 children. My wife and my kids had prepared a meal, and I was sobbing when I came home. And that's when I told them what happened. I lost everything. Now, I'd been lying to my family by omission. My wife was like, how's business? And I saw my bank account. I don't know if you've been there. You see it dwindling. So logically, I saw it, but emotionally, I wasn't ready to accept it. I'm like, that one client's coming. So my wife would say, how's things going? I'm like, it's fine. It's good. But I had to face it. We lost our house 30 days later. We liquidated all our assets. The cars were gone. Viper was gone, thank God. Everything was gone. But this was the moment, and I'll probably start crying, so I got to go quick. My daughter asked me, she goes, Daddy, she was 9, can I still go to horseback riding lessons? Now, to give you context, it was $20 for a group of like 10 kids, and they ride around for a half hour. And I said, I'm so sorry, we don't have anything. And as I said that, she got up and she ran as fast as she could into her room, and I hear the door slam, and I'm sobbing. I'm like, oh my God, you and I, and we define ourselves as providers. We are here to provide for ourselves, our family, our community, our globe. And I'm like, my one effing job, I can't do it. My daughter is so scared, she ran away from me. And as I'm saying that, I hear someone going, the door comes swinging open, and she comes running down with those gangly legs, and she has a piggy bank in her hand. And she goes, Daddy, Daddy. She goes, I'll pay our bills. I was so embarrassed of that day. And you know, there's a saying about rock bottom. As difficult as it is, at least there's only one way to go, which is up, right? It's a beautiful saying. It's total bullshit. It's total bullshit. You hit the bottom, you get dragged along the floor of self-disdain and hatred. I'm like, I'm a scumbag. And I went through 2 years of depression, self-diagnosed. I never went to a therapist. Do now. You should. Drank a lot. I don't know. But in reflection, it's the greatest moment of my life because I said, I'm going to fix this. Your traumas, whatever they may be, my traumas, our traumas often are the biggest opportunity. I'm on a path. I'm committed to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty because I know how visceral it is. I know how freaking bad it is. I am committed to make every entrepreneur I come in contact with as profitable as possible. Because honestly, I need to learn that for myself. What we teach is what we need to learn. And so I'm just putting it out there, putting it out there, putting it out there. I'm not great with money. I'm better. But God, I'm never going to stop teaching it.
I love that. How many of you guys resonate with that? And you've had, yeah. I mean, my dad calls it the head in the hands in the dark with no idea what to do moment. And I've had one too.
What was yours?
Mine was the same thing. A company was almost out of cash that we had, and I didn't tell anybody. And mine was like really, it was almost so fast. It was like a cancer diagnosis where you die the next 30 days. Like, I didn't know. I didn't really have the slow burn. We had made a terrible mistake in a business. And it's often, I think mistakes are usually who's, not how's. Yeah. And so I had trusted somebody, and that was my fault. And I had let them have too much control over one of these businesses. And the way that they had reported it had not really anticipated some expenses we were going to have, and also that we would have seasonality in the business. And I was so embarrassed about it that I called him in the middle of the night, and he said two things to me. He said, one, when we step on a nail at a construction site, we don't ask how we got there, what happened, what's going on, do I take a bubble bath so I feel better? We pull out the fucking nail. And so he goes, you're going to do the hard thing. You're going to do the hard thing right now, which is you're going to look at your business, and that's why I obsess for all of you guys on making sure that when you are in that poverty center, how do we get out of it immediately? How do we, fuck the emotions, fuck the feelings, we pull out the nail. You don't wonder how the nail got there. You fix the safety issues later. You wear better boots the next time. And so he did a really good job of snapping me out of it, of saying, instead of staying here worrying about it, which is why I'm always saying to you guys, money really likes speed. He basically was like, why would you worry about this one more second? You're not going to sleep anyway tonight. Stay up. Stay up. Let's look at the books. Let's fix this. And what I've found in investing in hundreds of businesses now, it's almost always fixable, to your point. Almost always. But the reason it won't be is because you don't move fast enough, you don't have people who have been there before around you, and you don't focus on profit. You focus on what is going to look good, what is going to be okay. Yeah. Like, sometimes you got to do the really awful thing, which is rip off the Band-Aid. But I'm so glad you talked about that, because one of our missions here is, we've looked a lot at the data surrounding small business, and most small businesses fail. That is true. Most of them do. Nobody talks about it. Most of them do. And a lot of the reason why, I think, is due to not having systems of control for situations in which emotion gets high. You have a ton of systems and stories and ways that you kind of are honest about yourself. You keep yourself in your, I'll call it your bumper lanes, because you know that you have self-awareness to be like, I'm not the best with money. The people that get in trouble are the ones that think they're the best with it, right? And so I want to talk about a couple of things. You can kind of pick which one. I want to talk about either the pumpkin plan, or I want to talk about clockwork, or I want to talk about beacon. Do any of those speak to you in this?
Yeah, they do. So I'd say pumpkin plan to start. What I did, just to give context, that's one of the books I wrote, and it's the runner-up to Profit First in popularity. What I did was I hired a business coach before business coaches really existed. This is back in the 90s. And he came into my business and said, day one, we're going to go to a pumpkin field. I'm like, what? He's like, you got to understand biology, because there's this thing called biomimicry. And when you study what Mother Nature's figured out, she's pretty freaking smart and she spent a lot of time figuring things out. You can copy those strategies, and usually they have a better success rate than something that's artificially engineered. So I went to a pumpkin farm, I studied colossal pumpkin farming, and sure enough, it works for business too. So that's the context.
Talk about why and what you got from it.
Yeah, so there was a few things. The first one was, it's called seed selection. And basically, to have a successful business, there's an intersection, it's like a Venn diagram of three key elements you have to nail, and the likelihood of growing is much greater than otherwise. Most entrepreneurs simply say, I'm doing this because this is my historical vocation, I have some experience, I'm going to do it. Or, I heard you can make a lot of money doing it. And I don't know if either of those are actually necessarily good. The first thing that we ask, and I ask myself, is, do I have something that's truly distinct in the industry? Can you redefine the industry? I'll give you a personal example. Who's heard of the Savannah Bananas here? Okay, they're exploding, right? So Jesse Cole is a friend from before, right when the Savannah Bananas were starting, and they used Profit First. I went down and coached the organization. What he did was say, what is the industry doing currently and sucks about it? He said, I don't know if any of you know this, but baseball is boring. It's boring. So he's like, that sucks. And he went through all these different things. So the first thing he said is, what are the things that people don't like? I'm going to unsuck it. That sounded very, I don't know why it sounded so gross, but it did. So he and his wife, Emily, started to redefine baseball to make it not boring and to make it entertaining. The second thing is they put intentional constraints in place. So they use profit first, which inherently means there's less money to spend. And one of my favorite things is he said, we don't have enough money for like a cheer squad or anything to entertain people. So he's like, what do you do when you have no money? He's like, you ask your fans. So he said, if you're 80 years or older, and you're a woman, you're on our cheer squad, and teeth are optional. And it's true for half the squad. I met the squad, and they're the Nana Bananas. And people lose their effing minds. Like, we lose our minds watching this. So what makes you truly unique, better than the competition, is not noticeable. You answer the phone in 2 rings, I answer in 1. I'm technically better. The customer won't notice. You run a standard baseball game, I have a grandma banana to answer around, I win. You gotta be different. Secondly is you have to have client demand for it. So I could do something very different. I could be your first guest that comes dressed like Bozo the Clown, waka waka. I come in with my big floppy shoes. Everyone will notice it's different, but is there demand for a weirdo that does that? Maybe not, and now I've compromised myself. So who's the customer that wants that? And it's not your standard baseball fan. They're not there for the winning game, they're there for the winning experience. So he's redefined the customer. And the last part is, to your earlier point, is systemization. And most people don't understand what systemization is. Systemization is where you can attract prospects, convert them to customers, collect revenue, have them raving about the experience, all while you're sleeping. Without any of your active input, with the entrepreneur not doing any of that, now you have a systemized business. And so what I learned from the pumpkin plan is that's the seed. And just like growing a colossal pumpkin, you need a seed that matches the environment, the soil content, the climate. You need a seed that matches up with those 3 elements.
Some of the greatest businesses start as nothing more than a notebook full of scribbles. But ideas aren't enough. They need execution. With GoDaddy Aero, execution is fast. A few prompts and you get a website, logo, email, and even social content. Minutes, not months. You go from scribbles on a paper to a polished online business you can actually grow. So stop waiting, stop overthinking, launch your business today with GoDaddy Aero. Head to godaddy.com/Codie Sanchez and see what's possible there.
By the way, this live episode, if you guys liked it, if you want more, well, I have a live event. I only do 1 a year. It's huge. How big? Really big. In Austin, Texas, just for people who want to make more money, buy businesses, build businesses. It's called Main Street Over Wall Street. So if you liked this episode, you're probably going to want to be there. There's only a couple hundred spots left. So click below. I want to shake your hand in person in Austin, Texas, or go to msows.com. MSOWS. We'll see you there.
So let's say that somebody doesn't have their, I believe you call it their prize pumpkin. Let's say that they don't have this differentiator, this unique component. What do you tell them to do? How do people start thinking about that?
Dude, I don't know why I called you dude. Is that cool?
I love dude.
All right,
yes.
Dude. I called my friends dude, so I didn't even
That's
know.
Great. Me
Subconsciously, you just qualified. So dude, this is what you gotta do. I got a magical Jedi mind trick question. I actually got 2 that will blow your mind away. And it's not what you think. That's how Jedis roll. First question, ask your best customers, those ones we identified, what am I doing right? Now here's why this is a Jedi mind trick. They will not tell you what you're doing right. So I used to work with hedge funds. They were one of my first company. We did technical services for hedge funds. They had Bloomberg's and ILX and all these different systems. I went to my best customer, Appaloosa Management. I said, what am I doing right? And they said, you respond very quickly. Now this is in the 90s. They said the typical computer guy was taking like a full day to get on site when our system went down. They got backup systems, but you get on site within 4 hours. Now here's the Jedi part. When your customer tells you you're doing right, they don't tell you what you're doing right. They tell you how they're judging you, what they're observing. You and I do thousands of things for your customer. Your customer does not see the 1,000 things. They see 1 or 2 things. So when you ask them what I'm doing right, they tell you the thing they see. So when my client said, you respond quickly, I said, holy crap, I'm not responding fast enough. Because that's what he's measuring. So I figured out a way, it was real simple, dispatch one of my technicians or myself to be within a half-hour radius of Appaloosa Management, and anytime he had a problem, I would leave my other clients, I have an emergency with my number 1 client, Dollar General, get there, and I was getting on site within a half hour. Within a month, he's like, I don't know what you're doing, dude, but it has blown my mind. Like, the service level has skyrocketed. He's like, we're telling everyone about it. So trick 1 is what I'm doing right is actually what you need to do better. Trick 2 is what am I doing wrong? But here's a Jedi mind trick. Don't ask what you're doing wrong because people lie to each other, social consequence. Ask what is wrong with my industry. It's the person outside the room. So like, when I leave here, you can have a candid conversation like, oh, Mike was not that good. He spoke a little quickly, and he did a lispy thing that didn't work. Like, whatever. You can say what you want. But to my face, you're like, oh, you were great. Good tips, Mike. You can't tell me the truth to my face only when I leave. So have the conversation about the person outside the room, the general industry. So I said, what's wrong with the computer industry? This is when you don't remember the Palm Pilot, you're way too young. Anyone remember the Palm Pilot? Okay, you're over 50. Over 50. No, you're not over 50. If you don't know what the Palm Pilot was, it was the first smartphone that was neither smart nor a phone. That's basically it, right? It was the weirdest thing. And he said, my computer company, my last guy, tried to repair the Palm Pilot, and he charged me more than just replacing it. I wish there was fixed billing. We moved to fixed billing in the early 2000s when MSPs only moved to it in the 2015s or so. So what am I doing wrong is what's the industry doing wrong is your opportunity to differentiate from the industry.
That's so good.
I got fired up there.
It's good. I mean, it is amazing how the right questions serve you so much better than the immediate answers. It's because you can just rinse and repeat. One of my pet peeves at our companies is we send a lot of surveys. I hate surveys. So I have like how many of you guys get a survey? You're like, thank God that came out. I needed more things to respond to in my email inbox. It's my huge pet peeve. I'm always like, instead, we should actually, I'm curious on that. I'm like, we should actually try to sell people more things. And the reason why is because then you actually know what they want. And if you sell something and nobody wants it, you're like, oh, that's the survey.
That is
the money's
gold.
The survey.
That is gold.
Right?
So I remember.
Do entrepreneurs sell enough to their customers? Are most entrepreneurs scared of selling?
They absolutely do not sell enough, and they don't sell the right way. I actually believe MVPs are not the right way to sell. So an MVP is a minimum viable product. I think that's too far advanced. We do a technique we call sell to tell. What we do is say, I was a co-owner in a manufacturing business for a while. We made leather products, sheaths specifically for knives. And instead of making a prototype and seeing what was out there, we simply announced to our audience, we're thinking about making a sheath and it's going to have this feature and that feature. Are you interested in buying it? But we asked the most important question. If you are, put down a deposit now. People speak the truth through their wallets. I was actually thinking about doing a conference at my old high school, but to pull it off, we needed 250 people there. We reached out to our audience. We had 75 people put a deposit down, and we said, no, this isn't going to go, and refunded their deposits. Ironically, prior to that, our marketing team said, well, why don't we just ask? We had over 1,000 people say, oh, I'm in. That's amazing. And if we acted on that, we would have blown money and embarrassed myself at my old high school.
I'm always scared people aren't going to show up for my parties.
Oh, cool.
Literally every time. Still, it never stops. Okay, so you sell to tell, which I love. Yeah. Do you have any good frameworks for how to know if you are selling enough as an entrepreneur? It's one of my beliefs that most entrepreneurs are too scared to sell, and so they don't do it frequently enough. How do you know if you're selling enough?
The act of selling as opposed to the dollar number.
100%.
Yeah.
Are we asking our customers for enough things? Are we asking for enough upsells? Are we? What is our relation between content and actual conversion?
Yeah, I think the two indicators is if you have customers come back to you and say, please stop that, that's a good indicator, and listen up, particularly your quality clients. Often we listen to the one naysayer who doesn't matter, like, you sell so much, you totally suck, and they've never bought from you, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'll never sell again. So listen to your best customers. Secondly is if you see every time you sell a decline in purchasing, and I've seen that before, that someone sells so much, people are like, you know what, I'm just turned off to you. All you do is sell. I think we have to care for our customers at an amplitude of a 5 to 1, maybe a 10 to 1. Just acts of service, caring for them, educating them, entertaining them, because that builds reciprocity, and then the sell becomes obvious. But I think particularly small businesses serve at like 100 to 0. Like all they're doing is like, I love my community, I'll do anything for them, and they don't monetize it. I would say, Cody, your customers, people in this room, my customers, not in this room, maybe, want us to be profitable. And your clients want you to be profitable. In fact, it's the number one customer, number one person in your life that wants you to be profitable is not you, it's actually your customer. And we don't believe that. Could you imagine, you go see your doctor, you have a heart situation, you rush in, Doctor 1 comes out and she says, here's the situation, I'm not profitable. I'm nearly broke. I'm really panicked for money. I'm just selling anything to anyone, and I've decided to generalize. I'm going to do neurosurgery, pediatrics, geriatrics, anything with an actix, I'm in. Dr. 2 comes out and she says, I am wickedly profitable. I make a boatload of money because I am wildly successful at what I do. In fact, all I do is serve this one situation. Which doctor are you going to pick? Dr. 2. You want your doctor to be profitable. And listen, maybe you're not providing life-saving services. You're providing life-altering services. Your customers want to know that you're profitable because then you treat them as the number one customer. They won't say, hey, can you charge me more? Can you rip me off a little? But they will say, I want your undivided attention. I want the best of you. And all those things are indicators of I want you to be profitable. I see you. I see you.
Well, it's such a good point. I mean, I don't know if anybody else feels like Mark Zuckerberg knows their purchasing pattern better than their husband does, but like Mark's got me on Instagram. Those ads come up, I want to buy. But if I go to double click on a shirt or an outfit, and the cost of that shirt or outfit is like $7.99, I don't buy. Why? Because I think the quality is going to be bad, because I think it's not actually going to be a good service. So not only do I think we don't sell enough, I think we price ourselves out of deals all the time because we're the cheapest, because we're like, oh, no, I want to overserve the customer. No, you lost my business because I don't trust that it could be quality at that price. And so I want to talk a little bit. You have multiple.
Can I ask that real quick?
Yeah, that's what I want you to do.
So I would buy that $7 shirt. And I think what's important about that is you have to bifurcate your customers. A large majority of customers are the cheapo customers. And that's me in that situation. But you care about the quality of your clothing, and therefore you're going to pay a premium. Now, I play guitar. I bet you if I saw a $1,000 guitar, I might buy it. I don't know if you play guitar. Do you? Okay. So you'll buy the $7 guitar, I suspect. And what price dictates is the quality of customer. You will find customers at the lower price point. And for anyone here that sells at a low price point, if you ever found that your customers are really bitchy and moany and they really suck, it's because you're attracting the shit customer, the one who says, I don't really care about this, I just need a shirt, so I'll pay the $7. And that's why I think we need to have a higher price. We get a higher value customer that's more vested in the outcome, and they're actually a higher quality customer.
What do you think about, I tend to think that when you solve rich people's problems, they pay more and they appreciate it more, by and large. And when you're a junior entrepreneur, or not even junior, when you're not the best entrepreneur in the world, I almost like solving more luxury problems because there's more margin in them typically, and you don't have to get as many. So it doesn't have to be such a volume game until you're good. Do you think that's true? Or do you think when you go and serve luxury customers, you better be luxury, you better be top tier, you better be great?
Great. That's a good question. I think the quantity game is really difficult to compete in because you only become profitable when you can handle that volume, which means exacting systems. That's why Walmart's so good. But they have to demand from their providers that it has to arrive at 10:30 and there has to be a SKU at a certain point. Small businesses, we don't have the resources typically to pull that off, so that's very difficult. When it comes to quality, I think is misunderstood. Quality, I think we hear that and we say, well, it's a special fabric or it's something that's really of long-lasting value. But quality simply means distinct. I'll give you an example. My youngest son, this is like a bad father moment. When he was 6 years old, I wanted to show him what devotion and commitment was, and it was the Olympics. It was like the Beijing Olympics. Michael Phelps wins like gold number 1 billion. And in this particular race, I don't know if you all remember, he was actually in third place, and he's swimming like super hard, and there's like 3 meters to go. He's in second place. There's a meter to go, and the person in the lead, I think from the Ukraine, is reaching out to touch the wall, and Phelps jumps out of the water like a shark and slaps the wall. And there's like this long pause, and it pops up, and Michael Phelps won by 0.001 seconds. And I jump up, I'm watching my son, I'm like, Jake, that's the world's best. That's how you do it. Total commitment, total devotion. That's the highest level performer. And he looks at me, he goes, but Daddy, Michael Phelps isn't the world's best. Jimmy Mickeldorf is. Now, here's the bad dad moment. I said, who the fuck's Jimmy Mickeldorf? I never heard of it. He's like, Daddy, he's in kindergarten. Never say it to your kids, by the way. He goes, Daddy, Jimmy's in my kindergarten class. He can swim across Mountain Lake. It's the lake near us. And he's like, he's the only kid in the world that can do it. I was like, oh my gosh. So the context of the best and quality is the context of the consumer's world. For me, it's the Olympic stage. For him, it's his kindergarten class. And Susie can make the biggest cannonball. She's a rock star for him. And it's like, oh my gosh, I am such an idiot. So when it comes to quality, I just asked, we have to know who our customer is. And what can we do that's unique and distinct to them they never experienced before? And now you've introduced quality.
That's so good. Let's talk about distraction a little bit. You have a lot in multiple of your books. I think I'm referencing the pumpkin plan more here, but how do you personally decide when to double down on an idea versus when to call it a distraction and cut it?
Yeah. So we generally look at a revenue threshold because that's just a shocking metric to many small businesses. We generally say if you're not generating $10 million doing your one thing, you haven't arrived yet, you're not good enough yet. For most businesses, that's about 0.001% of a market cap. So it's nothing. Yet most businesses said, oh, we're doing $300,000 in revenue. I should diversify and do more things. And it starts diluting you. It's all about the efficiency game. That's where we focus. The second thing is we just do diagnostics with AI. It's so easy now. Just look at the customer base, what they're consuming, what's the profitability per product, and we just focus in on those few things. I think businesses pursue diversification too quickly because we hear if you're diversified, you're safe, you're protected, but it also stalls growth.
Do you think entrepreneurs should ever have multiple businesses before they do $10 million in revenue?
If I say no, I'm a hypocrite. So I have many businesses that aren't doing $10 million, but I don't run them. So I think people misunderstand what a business owner is. In fact, when people ask me, what do you do? In addition to author, I don't say I'm an entrepreneur, even though it's my favorite word, because entrepreneurs become so bastardized. There's pundits that say, oh, entrepreneurship's hustle and grind. It's, work your ass off. That is not what entrepreneurship is. You were sharing something that I hope people took notes down. 6%, you said, of the world population runs a business. I'll give you the data behind this because I'm really into the numbers. 17% of the population ever attempts to start a business. So if you think about kindergarten and the 20 kids in your class, 3 kids, maybe 4 kids ever attempt to start a business. 20% ever start a business and after 5 years are doing it on a profitable, sustainable basis. That's 3%. So the 6% who are running a business, half of them are actually pulling it off after 5 years. And that's how the math works. Which means if you ever thought about who was the weirdo in your kindergarten class, it was you. You're a weirdo. For some messed up part of your mind is like, oh, I can start a business and make money. The number one job of an entrepreneur is not to do the job. The number one job of an entrepreneur is to create jobs for the other kids in your class. 19 kids in your kindergarten class want good jobs with good companies to live a good life with just good experiences. If you are doing the work in your business, you're failing the responsibility of an entrepreneur. Your job, my job, our job is to create jobs for the other 97% of the global population. Yet most entrepreneurs are doing the work. So, let me get off my soapbox for a second. I don't call myself an entrepreneur anymore because unfortunately, we're told that means to work in our business. I call myself a shareholder because I also own public stock and I'm a shareholder in my business. And when someone says, what are you? I say, I'm a shareholder of small business. They're like, what does that mean? I'm like, oh, I own the stock, I share in the profit, and I give strategic direction, I vote. But I don't do any of the work in the business. So for every one of the companies, we have a president, we have a C-suite, if you will, and these are some small businesses. A C-suite could be like 6 people in the entire company, but I am not in the business doing the work.
So cool. Let's talk about beacons. So you referenced a study about football fields and blindfolds, but how do you stay on course in a business and not get distracted?
So the study, this is my book actually called Fix This Next. What I found is most entrepreneurs are reactionary. And there was a study of a woman named Amanda Eller from the state of Hawaii back maybe 10 years ago. And it's a common story. She was just a unique global phenomena. She went for a hike on a path she always does. Halfway through a hike, it was like a 5-mile hike, she sees a fallen tree and she decides to sit down and meditate. She comes out of her meditation, she picks a path, the key variable being a path, starts walking. She's like, oh God, I'm disoriented, I'm not in the right spot. 17 days later, she's found clinging to life by a rescue crew. What's interesting about the story is she was a half mile from her car. She started walking in circles. Without a beacon, this happens over and over, people get lost. In this German study, they took people on a football field and they put like a sleep mask on them and said, find your way across. No one could do it. And it wasn't the long way, it was the distance like halfway across the field, which is only 50 yards, and they couldn't do it. Most entrepreneurs operate their business this way. It's very reactionary. It's like, oh, my instinct says go here, my instinct says go there, and we're totally blinded. So we have to pick a beacon of what the business needs. The typical beacon is this. The most common missed part in businesses is Are you profitable on a daily basis? At the end of today, Saturday, are you going to walk out of here and your business made more money than it spent? And tomorrow, does it make more money than it spent? Most entrepreneurs don't focus on that at all. They simply say, I need to sell more. And they actually dig a hole further. So the number one beacon is sustainable daily profitability. The second beacon after that, once you nail your profitability, you can use Profit First to do that. Number two is efficiency. And I'll give you the hack to efficiency that most people don't do. Most people say, oh, I got to learn how to delegate. Question, who here has a personal assistant? Raise your hand, live audience. Okay, hands down. Hands down. Who does not have a personal assistant? Okay, keep your hands up. You are the personal assistant. If your hand is up right now, it is the biggest flaw in small business. Everyone that just raised your hand, hire a personal assistant stat. And they don't have to be full-time. They can work 1 hour a month. And it's not to have someone doing work for you. It's so you can learn how to delegate to other people. It is the biggest weakness most entrepreneurs have is the ability to delegate. Second tip, most people delegate the wrong thing. What don't I like to do? I don't like doing this, I'm gonna delegate it. Wrong. What do you love to do so much you'll never give it up? Delegate that. Because when you can delegate your passion, you'll learn to delegate the entirety of your business.
Love that. Yeah, I mean, Zach, you know what one of the first things we do in the boardroom is, which is yell at you guys to get VAs, right? He's nodding his head, yes. And that is because you're right. Otherwise, that means you do not value your time more than minimum wage offshore labor. And like, you got to look at yourself in the face and think about that for a second. You are saying your time is not worth more than a couple of dollars per hour. And if that is true, then are you really a business owner? And I think the answer to that is no, you're an employee. You're still in employee status. And one of the first things we do in our groups is say, let's offload some of these. Let's kill the zombies, let's cut the weight, and let's offload the things that you should never be doing in the first place. And now there are incredible systems to do that. And we'll talk about that later today as well, as Zach knows. Okay, I want to talk about, let's talk about profit first. Many people think revenue minus expenses equal profit, and profit is the last part of the equation in business. You famously argue the opposite. Let's talk about what the profit first framework is.
So after struggling with my own finances, I looked at my businesses historically, and while they grew, and I did sell 2 businesses, they were never profitable. And so they were strategic acquisitions. I was lucky to get out. Most people will never sell their business. So I ran the data. There was a study from the SBA in conjunction with a major bank. They identified 83% of small businesses in the US. There's 36 million of us now. Under 25 million in revenue are considered a small business. So it's probably the majority of this room. 83% of us are surviving check by check. And probably everyone in this room, in part, started your business for financial freedom. So I'm like, oh, we started our business for financial freedom, but no one pulls it off. What's wrong with us? And then I was looking at the formula one day, I said, holy crap, that formula is wrong. It makes logical sense. Sales or revenue, you subtract expenses, what's left over is profit. Totally makes sense. It does not make behavioral sense. It is human nature. What comes first gets done. What comes last gets ignored. The manana syndrome. We are told profit comes last. It's the bottom line last. It's the year end last. It's all last. And so most business owners, and how I ran my business, I'd wait till the end of the year. I'm like, shucks. I wouldn't use the word shucks, but your mom's here. I'm like, shucks. I could never swear in front of my own mom, but I'm F-bombing here. I would go, shucks, I don't have any profitability. Maybe next year. And that was the fundamental flaw. Once I took my profit first, I started becoming profitable every day. It's the pay yourself first principle applied to business. And this goes back to biblical times. It's like nothing new. In the Bible, they talk about tithing and the necessity of putting money aside. It's been modernized in tons of personal finances. We're told to have a 401k, pay yourself first. And yet in a business, we don't do it. So it's literally that simple. And it ain't a shell game. It leverages, into behavioral principles, a thing called Parkinson's law. Parkinson states that our demand for a resource expands as the resource expands. The more time you have to do something, the longer it'll take. The more cookies that are served as a dessert, the more you're gonna eat. Guilty. And the more money you make in your business, the more you will spend. As your revenue goes like this over time, I bet your expenses increase at the uncanny same rate. It's because how we're behaviorally wired. So what we're gonna do is starting today, every time sales comes in, like today, take a percentage. You wanna have 10% bottom line? Take 10%. 20, great, take 20%. Take that profit, hide it from your business, and now your business tells you what's available to run your business. What I say is profit first doesn't fix your business, it tells you what needs to be fixed within your business. Because if you want that profit number, it'll tell you you don't have enough, your prices are wrong, you gotta fix your margins, inefficient, over costs, all that stuff.
I love that. We'll do an activity, I think, later today that talks about we like to have people actually think about where in your business can you cut costs immediately.
Yeah.
It's because it's hard to make new sales, right? You're like, yeah, I'd love to go right now, close a bunch of new business, go out there, execute on it. Can be hard.
Yeah.
You don't always have control over that immediately, but somewhere in your business is sitting some cash. And so we have a process, Carter's really good at this, where we go through and analyze again and again, where in your business do you have hidden money? And it's not the sexiest of things, because nobody's like, I saved $1,000 today.
Yeah.
You're like, I closed a bunch of new clients. That's way sexier.
Yeah.
Who gets paid the most? Salespeople. Who gets paid the least? Accountants. And yet, accountants are more consistent. And so I really like this.
That's brilliant. There's a little hack you can do.
Let's do it.
Get a credit card, a new credit card. This sounds crazy, for your business. You can do it in your personal finances too. Move all your subscriptions to that one card and get paper statements. I did my personal finances. I'm like, I probably spend, a couple $100 maybe on subscriptions. Holy crap, I spent 500. I got the Hydro system. I got the Peloton. I've got Netflix. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm not using half this stuff. You got to make it visceral, and you got to make it conscious as opposed to subconscious. In your business, set up a dedicated card just for your subscriptions, and you'll see how much you're spending. It's the first way to get control of that stuff.
I love that. Yeah, and I want to open it up from questions here at the end, so think about it for a second, have your questions kind of ready. The other thing I think we don't think about enough as business owners is investing in ourselves.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds a little cheesy because it's so much easier to say, I invested in the business here. I hired a new person. But I found that if we don't become better, our business never gets better. And so I'm curious, you've been in the sort of educational business for a long time. Do you still have coaches and mentors? Yeah. How do you think about investing in yourself as the entrepreneur and getting better? Is that important to you?
Yeah, so wickedly important, surprise. What I do is identified what is the role that I enjoy the most, meaning gives me the most joy. But first I had to eradicate myself from doing it. So let me explain. I get the most joy from being a spokesperson for my brand, okay? I realize that requires a lot of public speaking. And I realized if I'm the only person doing it, I become the linchpin for my business. So first I educated about 50 people on speaking on Profit First. In fact, there's 3 Profit First keynotes going on today, and I'm not doing any of them. So that's the first thing. So I'm not necessary. Then I said, okay, well, I own the business, and I want to do what gives me joy. I'm not going to sit on the beach and stuff. So I'm going to reinsert myself, and I want to be the best spokesperson I can. So I go to improv classes. I study comedy. I look at what do my contemporaries do, and most people sit behind a dais and I'm like, that's the one thing I can't do. I have to be different. So I study theatrics, performance, all those things constantly. I have a speaking coach who comes to my events and critiques me, sometimes live. He'll be doing signals. He'll sit in the front row. He's like, doing we have these hand signals. Like, oh gosh, hands out of your pocket. Named John Bates. So I very much invest in that. I think for any of us, it's just human nature. We can be super elite at very few things, but pick that thing, and then you become the Michael Phelps or the Jimmy Mickeldorf of your category.
Well, it's
now you all know Jimmy Mickeldorf.
No, poor Jimmy.
Yeah,
I wonder
poor
where
Jimmy.
he is today.
I know. He's 20 years old now. He's never had a girlfriend as a result because of me.
I love that. Thank you. I think a lot of times we need to give ourselves permission to spend time getting better, because it feels like there's too many things to do every single day, and it might even feel like a little bit of a luxury. And I'm a big believer that, if we don't spend money becoming the best CEO we can be, then how can we hire the best talent who can then be talking on other stages, who can then be growing the business? You cannot attract what you are not. And so I think you have to keep becoming better if you want to attract better people. Okay, yes. I have one last question that I'm going to open it up for you guys. You often talk about building a business that runs without you. What's the first system every owner should put in place?
We do with every business we invest in. We immediately schedule a 4-week vacation for the business owner within 1 year of today. And I challenge you right now, in your calendar, put a 4-week vacation. That's 1 month away from the office. Tell your loved one you're going on vacation with them, perhaps. Tell your kids. They're the ultimate accountability mechanism. And if the thought of that gives you a heart attack, and when most business owners it does, that's the first indicator we do not have a systemized business. If you can extract yourself from a business for 4 consecutive weeks, we actually turn off your email, full shutdown. It changes the mindset from how am I going to be the superhero again today to how am I going to get the business operating without me? And that's what we do. That's the first thing.
At what level of revenue or existence of a business do you put this into place?
We've done like $100,000 business. And it's like, how can you do it that? It's a one-person business. Even if you're a one-person business, you have vendors, maybe you're not employees, you have clients, you can make your clients work for you. I grew up back in the day where you had catalogs and you want to order that nice expensive shirt of yours, you call up and the operator would be like, oh, what's your address? And you say, it's 12 Main Street. And you're like, what was that? Vane Street? No. Now they have customers doing the work. We actually go on the web and we're like, click, 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 12 Main Street, ha, ha, ha. Like, we think it's cool entering the data for them. So you can actually train your customers to do the work for you. Your doctor, your GP has you fill out this ridiculously long form for you. You're doing the work. I'm like, this is amazing. So even if you're $100,000, you can do it.
you're not rich, you will go broke trying to build a perception for yourself so that other people think that you're doing a lot better than you actually are.
You don't need a six-figure salary to become rich. You can change your financial life in 6 months. See, Vivian too rewired her brain on Wall Street. Then she built her reputation by calling BS on feel-good money rules and replaced them with data-backed finance systems she learned. I do believe you can think your way to rich in many ways if you know where to look. And today, we'll see if you agree with me by the end of this episode. What other frameworks do you have about saving, investing, or making money that like everybody needs to know?
I like to help people calculate their fuck you number. Close your eyes for a second and imagine your perfect year. How much would that 1 year cost you? And at that point, you could tell your boss, fuck you, and quit. Can I also say something that's probably a little controversial?
Yes, please.
So
I think you and I have the same ideas on lattes. So you famously say like a $5 latte will not make you broke. What are the habits that secretly keep people broke?
I think it's the idea of just grossly living beyond your means and finding new and creative ways to do it. Let's give an example. Buy now, pay later. Okay? At first, buy now, pay later was actually an incredible service because it provided essentially a line of credit to those who couldn't necessarily get a credit card, who couldn't get a traditional loan. And this is when you were buying a refrigerator or tools for your work or a new laptop that you really needed to do your job. But now you're buy now, pay latering a burrito or Coachella tickets. So you go, you have the thing, and then you still have to pay more installments. I just think that like we have to have a real conversation with all of us as a society and say, when is enough? Because we are on this consumerism hamster wheel that is constantly going to tell you that if you don't have XYZ, you aren't special, you aren't important, you're not rich, and you will go broke trying to build a perception for yourself so that other people think that you're doing a lot better than you actually are.
So do you, I saw that the other day. I saw an ad on Instagram, I think I screenshotted it, that was a buy now, pay later for dresses and outfits. Like, do you think that buy now, pay later now is a way that makes most people broke? Like most people should not use buy now, pay later?
I don't, because here's the thing. If you were to use a, buy now, pay later service, Klarna, Afterpay, whatever, and used it perfectly, you could come out unscathed. How many people do you trust to do anything perfectly? I mean, I can't even make microwave mac and cheese properly half the time. I mess up a step or something. I just feel like the risk is too large. The reward is not worth it. If you can't afford it on your own, then you can't afford it. You need to be saving up for it. You need to be budgeting for it. And for me, I think that what they don't tell you is that if you do miss a payment, the consequences are very severe. And there are decently high interest rates on those loans because that's what it is. It's a loan. It's not some fancy payment strategy. It's a loan. In the same way that you would go out and borrow money from a bank and miss a payment, you're going to have the same problem here.
It's so scary, isn't it? Like, it kind of makes me think about, I don't know if we all just complain too much, if it is reality, but do you think it is actually harder to be young in this generation than it was previously? Like, is it harder to be young and feel like you're rich in this generation than previous generations?
Of course. It is not in your head. It is not even, frankly, quote unquote, your fault. However, we have to understand the reality, but then also know what we can do to change it. So the reality is this. The cost of an education is sky high. Your parents could go to college, your grandparents go to college for $45 and a handshake. Now, a private 4-year education is multiple six figures. Homes have very literally 10x'd in cost over the past 100 years. Then you've got wage stagnation. That's awesome. The fact that our dollar just does not keep up with the rate of inflation. And just the fact that we have to recognize that we have so many more touch points of temptation, I'll call them, than our parents did. Because in your parents' generation, they had Keeping Up with the Joneses. They would look out their window with their little binoculars and be like, oh my gosh, the Joneses, they got a new station wagon. Or the Joneses, they got a new TV. Great. You can only see as close as your access gets you. You are actually basing your financial reality on someone who you have proximity to. Even if it's the richest person in your neighborhood, it's your neighborhood. But now, with the 2x4 screen in your hand, you literally have unfettered access to levels of wealth that have, frankly, never before been seen. I have no business knowing what the inside of Kim Kardashian's private plane looks like. I have no business knowing what island some royal is renting out for their luxurious wedding. But once you start seeing these things, that becomes an anchor. And you've probably heard of anchoring bias. It's essentially, when you're given a reference point, you immediately think that your answer to another question should be close to that number. So researchers asked a question. It was like, hey, how many countries are in Africa? And these are people who didn't know the answer, but they would essentially incept a number. And based on the number that they would tell these people ahead of asking them that question, their answer would be slightly closer to that number than, there was some sort of statistical significance there. And the problem is when you are anchoring your life against private jet money, against private island money, against vacation every single month money, you don't live in reality. And I think it's also fair to say that you don't need private island money to have a happy life. And that's the difference.
That's such a good point, because mimetic desire, the fact that I don't even know I want something until I see my rich BFF has it.
I'm going to tell you what you want.
Yeah, it is actually wild. And humans, apparently that is the only way that we know to want something or not. But I had never thought about temptation touch points before. And you're right. We are at a level where there is almost no way to escape them. We're here in New York City today. They're everywhere.
Can I tell you something really evil?
Yeah.
So I started my career on Wall Street, but the second part of my career that is talked about a lot less is that I worked at BuzzFeed. And I literally worked in digital media strategy sales. And that is a fancy way of saying I worked with companies to put ads online. So maybe they were custom pop-ups in Flatiron, like in real life, or maybe they were custom joint business ventures. But the lowest and simplest level of an advertising partnership is a standard banner. There are different sizes. You go to any sort of website, a news media site, you'll see a big old banner or a little banner at the top, depending on how their website's formulated. You'll see one on the right-hand side. You'll see one halfway through the article, whatever. And what they do is there are pixels. As you know, every single web page is made up of all of these little colored crystal pixels, so you can actually see stuff, read stuff. But if you go to, I'll just give an example, I don't know, a shoe website, and you're like, oh, I need this pair of heels, but I'm not going to buy them because it's out of budget. That website has put a very sticky pixel. Imagine it's like an Apple AirTag. They just popped it in your pocket. And then when you go and read an article on the Washington Post, or you go to a article on the Wall Street Journal, you're like, wow, these shoes, they're following me around the internet. It must be, a divine intervention. Like, I need to have these shoes. No, babes. I put that pixel on the internet to track you. We are literally fighting against so many more forces than our parents had to. And it isn't our fault, but we do have to be smarter. And I think media literacy right now is such a big part of financial literacy, because if you don't think about why someone is incentivized to show you something, you won't know why they bothered to do it in the first place.
God, that's good. I you know what? I know about pixels, but I never think about the fact that, in sales, they famously say you have to have 12 touch points in order to get somebody to sell something. And that used to be hard to get 12 touch points. Now, I go to Nordstrom's, I like shoes, and I'm on 17 websites plus. Zuck knows me better than my man.
Yeah.
He's got my Christmas list. So that's actually, it's a really good point, because I think a lot of times everybody's like willpower, discipline. But if the odds are stacked against you, that's pretty hard.
And did you know willpower is actually the only muscle that gets weaker the more you use it? You go to the gym, you do bicep curls, you do squats, I lift heavy. Every week, I can lift a little bit more. Every muscle gets a little bit stronger the heavier I lift, the more often I do it. Willpower? No. The more times you tempt yourself, the worse your willpower is. That's why in the morning, you're like, yes, I will have a light breakfast. And then at night, you're elbow deep in a bucket of mac and cheese.
That's never happened to me ever. No, of course not.
No, certainly not. Never. Not to us.
No, I was laughing today. I was in a workout in the morning and with a girlfriend, and my team wanted to film some of it. And she was laughing because she's like, you're so much more serious right now in front of this camera. I didn't even realize it, but I guess I fuck around a lot when it's not there. But the point is, like, I don't even want to do the workout all the time. I don't want to be financially responsible all the time. So I guess you have all this inside information, from your time on Wall Street and JP Morgan and in advertising. Let's go back there for a second. Like, tell me what else. Like, what was one of the biggest lies that you found when you were at JP Morgan? Like, what lies are we told right now about finance that we don't even realize?
I will say one of the biggest lies is just that it's rude to talk about money. I cannot tell you the amount of money conversations I heard for the first time in my life sitting on that desk as a 22-year-old with literally negative $4. And it was crazy to me because we're positioned as, hey, if you talk about money, it's gauche. It's very tacky. You shouldn't be doing that. But I would sit there and listen to the traders compare what the private schools that they sent their kids to cost. And I would hear them compare, which mortgage lender gave you a better rate? Pass me that guy's email. And then I would hear them say, hey, on the street, I was on the equities desk. When you trade a certain list of stocks, you are not personally allowed to invest in those companies. It's a conflict of interest, financial disclosures. We would literally have traders be like, man, if I was a betting man, I would put on this trade, but I can't because I work on this pad or like this list. People were literally giving each other ideas that they personally could not benefit from. They would constantly be talking about money. And that was the craziest thing. For people who are in the beginning of their financial journey, the hardest feeling is feeling like you don't have enough money. But once you get to that level, on Wall Street, what I learned is people have a harder time finding opportunities to actually deploy that capital. They're trying to give that money away faster than they can spend it. But you know what? It has to be a good opportunity. It has to earn them something back. It has to be worthwhile or additive for their life. But I really do think there's power in having that conversation.
The inside of the richest rooms, they talk about it all. I mean, when I was at Goldman in finance, they did what was called a club deal. Mm-hmm. And I never knew what a club deal was. And that just meant like, I guess it came from the 19th hole, like the golf course. Yeah. So the clubs where all these dudes would go, they would sit and talk about deals. Hey, I'm going to invest in this real estate thing. You guys want to get in? That's where I learned the first term syndicate. That's when a group of us all get together. And I realized, some of the best deals, they're never for the public. They're only behind closed doors.
That's that friends and family.
Right. And in the beginning, you can't even really have that matter to you because you're in survival mode. Mm-hmm. But I think it's really important to often know what's behind the closed doors that nobody even knows about.
I think it's important to eventually be in the room that it happens, but you have to know that room exists first. Yeah. And I had never seen it. Like, I grew up very much middle class. My parents were both immigrants. I was the first generation kid. Like, we didn't have these conversations at the dinner table. But what I noticed was those conversations were being led by the third generation trader. It's not even that he had money. His dad had money and grandpa had money too. And so it's almost woven into your DNA to be comfortable having these conversations when for the most of us, we're just not born into that.
Yeah. Do you have a philosophy on old money versus new money?
Absolutely. I think the difference is social capital, and I'll explain. So basically, when I was young, my parents were not consuming content. They were literally just working and trying to survive. And so when I would go to school on the Monday and people would be like, oh my God, the Ravens, they won this week. I'd be like, the Ravens, what is that? I didn't know what the football team was. Or they'd be like, yeah, my favorite band, the Beatles. I'd be like, the Beatles? What is that? And it was always even as I got older, it was have you seen this movie? No, I have not seen that movie. Sorry, my Chinese-speaking parents have not shown me the greatest 100 movies of, our time. I did not have those unspoken things that made you cool. And I thought when I finally got to Wall Street, when I had gotten, that great education and gotten to this private zone, that I was finally in the club. I wasn't even on the same block as the club. And so unfortunately, I learned a lot more lingo there. So when guys would say, yeah, this weekend we're heading out east. East of where? That's code, by the way, for the Hamptons. Or it was something along the lines of, when we ski in Zermatt and we go to Gestad and there's Courchevel. Like, I didn't even know how to spell these words, much less knew where they were. And there was this essentially club, unspoken, that you had to be a part of. Your dad had to have taken you to that ski resort, or your mom's family had to have had the house in Montauk. Like, you were summering there. Summer is a verb, by the way. Never heard it before that.
Me neither.
And for me, I would say now I'm proudly new money, because when I think about all of these little touch points and this, if you know, you knows, it feels a little cheap. It feels like you're buying friendship. You're buying access. And what I love about being new money is that I'm tacky. Like, I don't want to stay at the bed and breakfast in, New Hampshire that Papa had a stake in. Like, I don't want to stay there. Like, I want to stay at the newest, nicest place with 1,000 thread count sheets. I want it because I can afford it. I want it not because it's tasteful, not because it's quiet, subtle. I want it because I can have it.
I love that. Very unapologetic. It makes a lot of sense why millions of people follow you on the internet, because I think it's also refreshing. There is this movement to try to be something that you're not. Like, you get money and then become something different. But I do think, to your point on rich people speaking differently, it's really hard to learn the inner workings of a culture if you don't speak the language.
Yeah.
So if you don't speak the language of the wealthy, well, then it's kind of hard to become wealthy. Mm-hmm. And so it's almost like you have to learn these words, and not just the fancy summering things, but you have to learn the words like we were talking about it before, 2 and 20, LP, GP, like all of these words in finance keep people away. And part of your mission to me that's so important is you seem to constantly, when I see your videos come up, you're like, let me explain what's actually happening here. And I'm going to take it from, MBA at Harvard down to the rest of us who never knew about this. Mm-hmm. And so I guess I would be curious. You had one video I really liked, but even about how do rich people keep money in the family?
Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah. I mean, listen, rich people's idea of wealth is very us-based. And I'm talking truly wealthy people. It's like, this is an heirloom passed down from grandpa. This is how we're going to make sure that your kids' college is paid for. And learning that is part of the generational wealth. The generational wealth is not just money being passed down. It's me passing down knowledge that I have, that I maybe, if I was the generation to make the money, I had to break my back and learn things the hard way. I don't want that for you, because I want you to be better than me. I want you to be richer than me. And so I think the number one thing that rich people do that regular people don't is that they strategically, financially choreograph their life and how their money lives. So let me explain what that means. Basically, this financial choreography is how your money will move at certain points in your life. Maybe I have a desire to pass money down to my daughter, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to pass this down in a very specific way. You're going to get some money when you choose a school to attend. You're going to get some money when you decide to buy a home. You're going to only get any money if you make sure to sign a prenup. There are certain things that rich people are asking of their heirs so that their fortune is not spoiled, that regular people leave up to chance. And that's the problem. The people in your life, and frankly, you, are the liability. You are the person who has that lowered willpower. You are the person who might not make a smart decision one day just because you had a bad day or because you're tired. But when you choreograph, and I keep saying that, it's like a dance routine. When you choreograph your money in your life, you've taken all the thought out of it because you've waited for a sunny day when you were in the right state of mind to make smart decisions that you know will pay off in the long run.
This is a secret nobody shares. I've done thousands of deals, but until now, I've never shared the most valuable 10% publicly because I want to buy these businesses myself. Then I realized that if you guys buy the businesses, I get to do the deals with you. So this year at Main Street Millionaire Live, it is your chance to see our insider strategies. I'll teach you how we find, buy, and scale a business step by step with the frameworks that I literally use to buy all these businesses. So if you want to go from an aspiring owner to someone actually running a profitable business, join me. I'll give you my blueprint, and maybe we end up doing deals together.
Let's talk prenups. Do you think everybody should get a prenup?
Yes.
What are the details? Why and how would you set up a prenup?
Well, Cody, because if you don't get a prenup that you make yourself, you still get one, and the government gets to write it. And I don't care if you are left, right, center. I do not trust the government to know me and my partner as well as I do. Nobody should know me and my partner as well as me and my partner do. And so I feel like the nasty phrase thrown around prenups is like, oh, you don't trust me? Like, you think this is just we're going to get divorced? No. But like, you buy car insurance, don't you? You buy home insurance. You buy health insurance. You planning on getting into a crash, losing your home, or getting sick? No. This is just a security blanket. It is essentially insurance. And why it's so important to me is because it can be so tailored to your relationship. So I'll tell you what's in my prenup. My partner and I, when we first started dating, he made a lot more money than me. He covered all of our expenses. He was very generous. And ultimately, because he spent so much more of his money and I saved so much more of mine, when we bought our home, we didn't put in 50-50 amounts. But I wanted to make sure that we were still 50-50 on the house because I only had that money because he took care of me. And that's a loving thing to do. So everything going into our relationship that we have, 50-50. All assets, cash, everything, while we're married, 50-50. The only carve-out being the equity and ownership in my business, because if something were to happen, I would not want my ex-husband having any sort of ownership stake or say in how I run Your Rich BFF. And I think this is so powerful because the biggest thing a prenup can do is protect you. Think about if you are a stay-at-home parent. You are making a huge sacrifice in your personal career. You are doing endless unpaid labor that is so critically important to a family. Your family can't run if you don't do that work. But if you are not making a traditional income and you do not have some sort of protection in place, what happens in 10 years when maybe, say, you get cheated on? You're going to walk away with nothing. The only reason your partner was able to go out and work hard and earn that money is because you took care of everything at home. Whatever your prenup says, it should feel just. And I'm not saying equal, I'm saying fair. Because based on what you are bringing in and what you plan on contributing during the life of the marriage, you should have a clear way to divide that.
Yeah, I'm having dinner tonight with James Sexton. Do you know him? Mm-hmm. I'm obsessed
Divorce
with James.
lawyer.
Yeah,
Love.
we've become buddies. He's close with my husband. They're both like jujitsu guys. But he says the same thing. And it's, once you've pierced the veil of finance, you realize the world of money. Once you pierce through the veil of divorce, same thing. I'm divorced previously and then happily remarried. But it was awful. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was awful. It was probably one of the hardest things I've ever been through. And I lost a ton of money and time and pain and sorrow and whatever because we didn't actually do that. Mm-hmm. We did not have a prenup. And so I think there's always an exit tax to freedom, but it's such good advice that, again, is not very PC to share. And I'd be curious, let's go non-PC again. You and your husband both work.
Yeah.
I think it's very controversial these days. What should a woman do? What should a man do? I'm sure you get called a power couple too. I never know what to do with that term. Yeah. I'm always like, I think we're just both working, which is sort of normal. But what do you think should be the traditional relationship between man and woman in this world of making money and taking control of the house?
I think it's whatever works for you. And I hate to give a wishy-washy answer, but throughout the course of our relationship, things have changed. When we first started dating, I mentioned that he made a lot more money than me. And I had a lot more free time at the beginning because he was in investment banking. So he worked even longer hours than I did. That meant I picked up a little bit more slack at home. That's fine. But eventually we got to parity. That was probably like year 5 of our relationship. And then when I started Your Rich BFF and it blew up, and now that I'm the breadwinner, there have been moments where I am busier than him, and I am so grateful to come home and he's like, oh, by the way, I've washed all of your yoga pants, so like you don't have to keep wearing the same pair again. That's weird, Vivian. Like this is like day 5. Like you need to pick a new pair. And so I think things can change throughout the course of your life. But if your partner is not willing to have that conversation, if there's just some default expectation that you will always be doing XYZ forever into perpetuity, it seems like you may not be in the right relationship. Like there's going to be moments, and there have been moments recently, even now that I'm the breadwinner, where my husband is just swamped. And I know he's swamped. So I make sure when he comes home, dinner is ready, whether I ordered it or I made it. But like, I need to take care of him. And he needs to take care of me, and we need to take care of ourselves individually for the other person too.
Yeah. Well, it's freeing because I think, these days there's all these gender norms but simultaneously now we're working too. And so, for me, I'm like with my husband, we both work together in the business. So it's both of our businesses now, but Lord help me. If I was the one that was always responsible for having to do the cooking and cleaning, of which I'm completely inept, I'm pretty clean, but cooking, absolutely not. That's him. He goes out, he buys the groceries. He loves cooking. He's a total mini chef, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And he gives zero fucks. He's like, he's so masculine. He's like, I'm not emasculated by this. I don't care. But I think for a lot of people, these gender norms, you kind of get caged in them. And I've seen them happen to my girlfriends who work. And it always hurts my heart a little bit.
Can I also say something that's probably a little controversial?
Yes, please.
When you do something for free, a woman does it. When you get paid to do something, a man does it. So when you cook at home, you're the one who's expected to do it. The wife cleans, the wife cooks. Tell me why there are so many significantly more Michelin-starred male chefs than there are women. Why? Because suddenly it's your little passion project to make glazed pork belly and have an arm tattoo sleeve? Like, why? Why is that your career? Why does that get to be a thing that you are highly paid for, to have your restaurant group? But when mama does it at home, you should be doing that. That's unpaid labor. Lame.
Yeah, it's very weird. But, I do think it's changing. Like one benefit, I think, I see people, business owners, men and women coming together every single day. I think the problem is you just can't be expected to do both. Like if I'm working all day, I'm not coming home and then doing all the housework too. That's unhinged.
Well, I think the safe thing to say is that if you want a traditional wife, then you have to be a traditional man. And you want to talk about a wife who cooks and cleans and has a hot meal on the table ready for, because back in the day, we could also all survive off of your one income, and we could still go on vacation twice a year. We had a white picket fence home, a golden retriever named Rover, and our 2 kids could still go to college, and you could pay for all that. If you can go to work and do all that for us, I'm happy. Happy to vacuum the house every day. I'm happy to cook dinner. I'm happy. But if you can't, and all of a sudden, I also got to work all day and come home, I also need a wife. Like, I too would like a wife who would do that for me. But you know what? If you are both making income, if you are both working, you gotta pick up slack together. And what we actually do in my house is we basically only do the chores that we hate the least. So my husband, his nightmare is going to a grocery store. I don't know if it's overstimulating for him, but he's like, I forgot what we were supposed to get. I don't want to be here. My nightmare is doing laundry. And it doesn't bother him. He's like, Viv, it's so easy. You just throw it in and then you go. The machine does it for you. And I'm like, yes, but this is now a 4-hour task. I'd rather go do something that's more immediately laborious for a shorter period of time. And so we divvy up our chores based on what we hate least.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah. It's actually really good because normally I might just bitch at my husband about the thing that I want him to do.
Yeah.
I'm a countertop freak. I hate a bunch of stuff out.
We could never be married.
Really?
I am disgusting.
Oh my God. I think we always marry the person that triggers us the most.
Yes.
It's probably so I can learn patience and that doesn't matter. But I lose it. And so much so that my husband now has a saying he always says to me, he always goes, don't touch my stuff. And I'm like, because I'm like that OCD person behind the husband cleaning it up as he's trying to make a meal. It's unhinged. And so, but I like the idea, instead of me yelling at him all the time, I just need to take care of it.
And so it's like this same thing. It's so good. Okay, what about, I want to talk a little bit about, you talked about things that you hate, and that's how you choose what to do. What if somebody hates budgeting? Like, what do you do if you're a person that hates budgeting, but you know you have to save?
It's a reframe. I think budgeting needs to get a new PR team because budgeting, I feel like, is so looked down upon. It's like, budgeting is going to tell me no. Budgeting is the reason I can't do anything. No. Budgeting is the reason you can go out with your girlfriends for drinks and not worry when the bill comes that your card's going to be declined. Budgeting is the reason you can afford to go on that vacation and not be like, is this pina colada going to set me over the edge? Like, budgeting is the reason why you get to have the experiences you want out of your life. And so I think first we got to reframe. But second, if we're going to be practical here, I like a finger to the wind budgeting strategy, which is just the 50-30-20. So your take-home pay, 50% of it goes towards needs. I'm talking housing, I'm talking utilities, transportation if you got to use it to get to and from work, basic groceries. 30% goes towards the wants. So this is dining out, entertainment, seeing friends, getting drinks, whatever. And then 20%, I always say, is taking care of future you. And that covers all things like saving, debt, pay down, investing, all of those things. And the hope is that over time, this isn't going to stay 50-30-20 forever. The hope is that, as you make more money, as your investments start generating more income for you, the 50 and the 30 become a smaller proportionate amount of what you are having come in the door. And that 20 can actually become a larger and larger percentage of what your money is used towards.
So like back when you were paycheck living, like if somebody's listening right now and they're like, all right, I'm going to do this. Vivian seems smart. She was on Wall Street. I'm going to listen to her. What would that look like? Like, what did you do when you got a paycheck in order to start saving? What is the step-by-step that someone should do?
Yeah, there was no step-by-step because if there was a step-by-step, it wasn't going to happen. So in New York City, I remember this too so vividly because you get 2 paychecks a month. And I was living paycheck to paycheck my first year working on Wall Street, which is so ridiculous because the rent was so high. My expenses were so high just because it was so expensive to live here. One of the paychecks, immediately I knew was going to rent and then it was gone. But what I would do is in the portal where it's like day one, they sit you down for orientation. They're like, hey, give us all of your information, your bank account, routing number so we can pay you, da-da-da. You give them your checking account. And then you never think about it again, but you can actually go and change that. So if you go into your workplace portal, you can change where your paycheck gets deposited. And what I ultimately had to do was automatically set aside 10% of my every single paycheck to go somewhere else. Yeah. Because when it was out of sight, it was out of mind. And then I was able to say, well, I only have this much left. This is how much I can spend. And so there was no temptation when I knew I didn't have the money. But all the while, my savings account is getting bigger and bigger. And at a certain point, I pivoted from even just saving to investing. And so I think taking all of the willpower, we talked about this, out of it. You don't want to build willpower. You can't. You want to build infrastructure, choreography. Because once you have those dance moves in place, there's no guesswork.
That's, yeah. It's funny because even in business, we teach the same thing. We have an idea that businesses should be profitable. I know it's shocking, but a lot of times we're business owners and we pay ourselves last, and then we allocate to new things and we're investing in our business, right? Well, most businesses never sell. Most businesses do not have an end date. They just close. So if you think about it that way, you're not paid along the journey at all, then that's really problematic. And so I have the same belief that in business, you should take the first 10% of every dollar that you make and you put that in your bank account, not in your business's bank account, in your bank account. And it's really painful for business owners to do because they're like, I'm going to run out of money. I have to spend all of this.
If you're going to run out of money, you might need to change some parts of your business.
100%. It's just financial discipline as opposed to willpower, which I think is a real differentiator. But let's actually talk about this. So you've got your cash allocation, your cash investment now. I never really knew how much money to keep on the sidelines. So like how much is too much cash to have sitting and how much should you have?
I think there's a number of different levers that I think about. So the first lever is typically what you as an individual, your demographic is. If you are single as a Pringle, you are just worried about yourself, you and your pet rock, 3 to 6 months of living expenses in a high yield savings account is usually appropriate. If you're a head of household, You got kids, maybe you're part of a family. 6 to 12 is probably a little bit safer. But now let's talk the levers. If you have a more traditional W-2 job, then you might be able to get away with the lower end of that range because it's probably easier to find replacement work. You're a freelancer? You're going to want a little bit more buffer. So that lever goes that way. But then it's like, finding a entry to mid-level job, there's dozens of them. But if you're more senior in your career, the job hunt might take 2 years before you find the right fit. So you might need to be on the higher end of that range if you are more senior in your career. And so there's all of these different levers, or maybe it's like, hey, one of your children has special needs. That payment to whatever service or whatever sort of private schooling or something cannot stop. You're going to want to be on the higher end of that range. You have to think about your life and where you fall. I like to do the 3 to 6 and 6 to 12 months as a jump off point, but then you need to pull all of your own levers and decide if you need to be on the lower end of that range, the higher end of that range, or maybe even bump above, or, where you need to live to feel safe. Mm-hmm. That money is not for today. That money, essentially what it buys you is time. If you no longer have money coming in the door, how long could you last with your current lifestyle? And that is what the emergency fund actually gets you.
Yeah, what's wild is how few people know that. I mean, we were playing a little game on the internet a couple of weeks ago where we were asking people, what is your hourly rate? Mm-hmm. Most people actually don't know that. And then what is your monthly expenses? More people know that substantially, but they don't actually realize what is the gap between what you make, what your monthly expenses are, and what your eventual, hey, I need to have 6 or 12 months.
Yeah.
And so this monetary gap is what kills you. And it sort of feels like the more successful, specialized, or skilled you are, the bigger amount of savings you have to have. Mm-hmm. So it's a really useful reframe. What other thing that I love about you is you're so framework oriented, which makes things easier to remember for people, and me included, because I'm very forgetful. So when you're thinking about personal finance and budgeting, are there other frameworks that you're like, why don't people know this? I need to tell them about it. And obviously they need to follow you for that too. But what other frameworks do you have about saving, investing, or making money that everybody needs to know?
I like to help people calculate their fuck you number.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
I love it.
This is
what
super
does this
fun.
even mean? Okay, fun.
Okay, so if you're driving your car, don't do this. But if you are seated somewhere safe, close your eyes for a second and imagine your perfect year. You get to live where you live. You get to travel wherever you want to travel. Maybe you're helping out, kids. Maybe you have a pet that you want to have. You can have a shopping budget, all of those things. Now ask yourself, realistically, and don't lie, how much would that 1 year cost you? Then we take that number. You can whip out your handy dandy iPhone calculator. You divide that number by 0.04. That is representative of 4%. And the reason we use that is because 4% represents an incredibly conservative return on your investments. So this is what you can decently get right now from a high yield savings account, which is effectively risk-free. So we're pretty confident you can get this return. The number that you get, that you've now just calculated, is what you would want to have invested. And at that point, you could tell your boss, fuck you, and quit. Because your investments would be able to sponsor your lifestyle. And you could have that lifestyle into perpetuity, never eating into that nest egg, because how much that nest egg would earn you every year would cover your expenses.
So hot. Also, it's a fun game.
It's such a fun game. Do it with your partner. We like to fantasize a little bit. And I'm like, okay, so if I'm living on a private island in Bora Bora, yeah, you can do that. It's fun. But also, it's realistic, because if you don't know what goal you're trying to go towards, you're just running into the horizon and hoping for the best.
Yeah. And I think it helps you not get so scared about money, because if you can move into the creativity zone, it's way harder to have the scarcity, the, lack zone. So I love that. Maybe that's a fun way to start out the new year.
Yeah.
Even just imagining it and feeling like, it was funny. My husband and I the other day were looking at some of the greats that we follow, like Napoleon, Alexander the Great, Marcus Aurelius, like old school guys. And he came up with an interesting assertion, which is that none of them actually ever hit their goals. Like they had crazy goals. I mean, Napoleon wanted to take over the world. Marcus Aurelius wanted to revive the Roman Empire, and they never actually hit them. But their goals were so big that where they fell was
Pretty cool.
Shoot for the moon, land among the stars.
Very true.
Yeah.
Napoleon, genocide and take over the world version.
Crazy.
Small little issue. Okay, I want to talk now about money and relationships in some ways. So let's say, for instance, that you're about to marry somebody. You're really considering it.
Yeah.
What money questions do you always ask somebody before you marry them?
Let's do a little Foursquare. These are the 4 things you need to know. You need to know what you make, what you have, what you owe, and what you spend. So this is going to talk about income. You should know what your partner makes. Like, I think that's a pretty simple one. You should know what assets your partner has, debts, what you owe. You need to know all of those things. And then also just generally what you spend on, because I feel like that is such a representation of who you are as a person. And I think one of the great frustrations I have with finance and relationships is that nearly 50% of couples don't talk about money until they're engaged. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I did. I talked about all of it.
Yeah.
Did you talk about all of it?
I talked about finance with my husband, my now husband, 30 days into our relationship because I moved into a cockroach-infested apartment and I basically needed him to bail me out of it and let me live with him after knowing me for 30 days. But I had to be straight up, this is how much money I have. This is how much money I make. I don't have any more money. I'm about to break this lease. It's going to cost me $8,000. It was all the savings I had at the time. Please help me. And it was so pathetic. I felt so just weak, small, lonely. And he responded with such warmth and kindness and understanding. And he told me all of his numbers. And this is not to say that we are the perfect couple, but one thing we have never fought about is money.
Is there a number where you think, Lord, if that's what their credit score is and that's how much debt they're in, don't do it? Is there a breaking point?
I don't think that there is a breaking point, but it does make me wonder. Because my question for you is this. If you are a grown adult with a credit score that low or a debt number that high, why haven't you made a plan to fix that? Because if you don't have a plan to improve those things, maybe it doesn't bother you. Maybe you're okay living like that. I'm not. I want to make sure that we can eventually buy a home together, or we can eventually get a family car, or I'd like to go on vacation. God forbid. I want to relax one time ever. But if you are going to legally tie yourself to someone, especially knowing that there are places that are community property states, you might have to assume somebody's debt if they take on a secret credit card while you guys are married. If you already have problems managing your overall financial health, that doesn't bode well for us. And it doesn't bode well for a lot of other things. In the same way that if someone is willing to lie to you about secret credit card debt, they're probably going to lie to you about other things.
I mean, it's really hard conversations now, easy life later.
Exactly.
And so you can have the heart up front or you can have it later. And Lord, I wish somebody would have told me that. That
was ingrained in you, by the way, by Latina parents or Latino parents, because my mom always told me, she was you can't have fun 2 days in a row. So it's you could either do your homework today or do your homework tomorrow, and you could go see your friend today or see your friend tomorrow, but you could never see your friend 2 days in a row.
That's amazing. Also such an Asian mom thing. I feel it's so good. I want to talk about okay, this is a little bit granular, but let's get granular. Beginning of the year. Let's say that your partner does make way more money than you do, or way less. Do you split things 50-50, or how do you have that conversation with your partner about who pays for what?
Yeah, you can split it 50-50 if you want to break up. No, listen, I am someone who doesn't believe in things being equal. They have to be equitable. Because say we're dating and you make $250,000 a year. And I make, I don't know, let's call it $80,000 a year. We go and get an apartment together and the rent is, $4,000 a month. That is a huge proportion of my income, right? $80,000 after taxes, you're probably looking at maybe $60,000 if we're lucky. $2,000 a month times 12, $24,000. 24 grand of 60 grand is what? A third? Over a third. 24 grand of 250. Let's say you walk away with 175. Oh, that's weird. That seems to be a much smaller fraction. No, we are not paying a commensurate amount on our rent. Because of that, I am shouldering a larger burden than you are, even though we are paying the same. And the problem with that is, over time, that leads to a lot of resentment, because you know what's going to happen? You're going to pay the rent, and then you're going to go about your merry way. You're going to go to sushi dinner. You're going to be able to go on vacation. You're going to buy nice clothes. I only have 36 grand left that I'm working with. I'm not going out to sushi dinner. So then I'm going to tell you, hey, I don't want to go out to date night. You're going to think I'm a killjoy. I can't afford to go on vacation. So now you have to go by yourself, and I'm just sitting at home like hating you via Instagram. Like, I will build so much resentment towards you because you are living in a completely different universe than me. I think every couple should split things in an equitable fashion. That can be proportional, doesn't have to be. That can be, one partner just says, I'm going to cover it all because you make so much less than me that I want you to save and invest your money. A great example of this, Tyler Cameron actually told me that he was paying a lot of expenses and bought his girlfriend a new car because she got into a really scary car accident. And when he told me all of that, he like made a comment. He's like, yeah, that's probably not great financial advice. And I was like, well, actually, I think it is great. Because if you really think that you are going to have a deep relationship with this person, you want to take care of them and do right by them. And if you're making meaningfully more money and it's no problem to you, why not set your partner up for financial success so that when, hopefully things do progress down the line, you're both in a healthy financial state?
Yeah, it's fascinating, because I think this conversation will help if you're struggling with it. This is such a mathematical way to explain how to split things. And oftentimes we don't talk about it. Then if you do talk about it, you talk about it generally like, well, I feel like I can't pay for all of this. That's not a very useful way to have a conversation. If instead you could say, well, here's a way we could do it proportionally. Here's why I think it makes sense. It's kind of like a masterclass. So if I was struggling with how to do something with my partner, I would use your words.
And it's so crazy too, because when it's things that are not money, it's never this challenging. So like when my husband and I order a pizza, we do not split this pizza down the middle. I know for a fact that he is probably, 60 pounds heavier than me. He naturally is going to need more calories to feel full. He's taller than me, he's bigger than me. So yeah, if I give him an extra slice, I don't feel jilted, right? Like, that's my allocation of pizza. Like, you would never feel that way.
Nope.
But when it comes to dollars, all of a sudden people they get their pants in a bunch. Yeah. And I think if we think about money as care, people become a lot less sensitive to it.
Yeah. You also make money fun. Like, the name of your new book is Well Endowed. And I LOL'd when you first gave me a copy of the book because, when money is either a game or mathematical or fun, it's just easier to talk about. There's some emotional burden that comes off of talking about money. So I want you to talk about it because I think this book is important for people. What is in Well Endowed? What are they going to get out of it? Why do people need to read it?
Yeah. So I think it'll make a lot of sense when I explain the title. Even though being well endowed is like a general, like crass joke that we make, if you actually look at the phrase well endowed, it is in reference to an endowment. And you've probably heard this word before. You've heard of Harvard's endowment, or maybe a big donor gave your favorite charity a pot of money to use, and now the charity has an endowment. What does an endowment actually mean, and what does it do? It is essentially resources and funds that allow an organization to further its mission into perpetuity for the rest of time and achieve their goals. That is exactly what I want to do with every individual person. Because oftentimes I feel like our generation is spending money on shit that we don't actually want to impress people we don't actually like with money we don't have. And so you end up looking at yourself one day, you wake up one day and you're like, I hate my job. I don't have anything to show for all of those years of work. And my life really didn't pan out the way that I wanted it to. And so what this book teaches you to do is, 1, understand consumerism. 2, navigate some of the biggest deals of your life, whether it's buying a home or a car or insurance. Learning how to actually navigate finances with a partner, how to maybe set your kids up for financial success, get to your happily ever retirement, and then still be able to build an estate plan to leave something behind on this earth once you're gone, whether it's for Fluffy, your favorite pet dog, whether it's for your 2.5 kids, whether it's for your partner, whether it's for the rest of your family. I want you to feel like you got the most out of this life and we're still able to pass something on.
That's so good. You know, I know what I'm going to do with my first $20 here, which is I'm going to spend it on this book. But let's say that somebody listening is like, they have $10K.
Yeah.
They have $10K to allocate. It is their, investment money or whatever. What do you think somebody should do besides buy the book with your first $10,000?
First and foremost, nearly half of the country has it. So what we're doing is we're paying off our high interest rate debt. And that is, my friends, credit cards. We are getting rid of that debt. The reason why credit cards can become so nefarious is because the APR on them is so high, usually somewhere between 20 to 30%, meaning that debt is compounding fast. So
APR meaning the interest rate.
Yes, APR being the interest rate every year. You want to make sure you wipe that because that debt can grow faster than the vast majority of investments that you can even make. Once you have that in a good spot, I want you to think about different time horizons. So maybe you want to have really long-term investments. Those are the ones for retirement. Perhaps it's something simple as putting your money into a target date retirement fund. All you have to do is calculate the year where you turn 65, round to the nearest year ending in 5 or 0, and then just picking, Vanguard, target date retirement fund, and then the year that you just calculated. Perhaps then you've got some shorter time goals. And maybe that's, I need to think about investing in a 529 because I want my son to be able to go to school and I'd like to help with that. Not only do you get a state tax benefit for you in 30 plus states, but also that money grows tax-free, can be used for educational expenses tax-free. If your kid ends up being some sort of football star and doesn't need the money, you can roll up to $35,000 of it into a Roth IRA for kiddo. And frankly, if you still have money left over, you can change the beneficiary of that account multiple times. You can become the beneficiary. Mama wants to take classes at the Culinary Institute. I'm going to go get my golf swing right at the Golf Academy. You do have to go somewhere that's accredited. It can't be like Uncle Tony's Golf Academy. It has to be like a legitimate place. But there's so many things that you can do, and it's a little bit of a nearer time horizon. And 3, I think look into creative ways to invest. We just had an incredible conversation about deal making, buying boring businesses, but also thinking about investing in your short term. So it's like, okay, well, I don't love my job. Like, what am I going to do to get a better one? Maybe it's I have to go get that sort of MBA if I'm in consulting and I need to move up that ladder because at a certain point, those 3 letters are going to make a difference in certain industries. Not all of them, but some of them. Maybe it's, man, I'd really like this specific skill set. Maybe I can find a place that can teach me how to do that, whether it's design, whether it's, understanding editing. It's all of these things. Invest in yourself for the short term because yes, I always say you can start with $5, you can start with $10. Investing is easy, yes. But the more money you have invested, the stronger it becomes. It's very literally a snowball rolling down a hill. And so at the beginning, it actually even makes more sense to invest in yourself so that you can have more money coming in the door. And when you have more dollars coming in the door, you have more money to put towards those longer term investments.
Do you believe in passive income? Do you think that's real?
I do, but I don't think it's as described on the internet. Like objects in mirror are better than they appear. So, you hear people talk about like you can just buy foreclosed home. Shut up. That is not passive. You are doing a lot of steps. You're doing a lot of work. You're probably going to have to do some sort of fixing on the house. That's not passive. You got to do stuff. Then there's like, oh, you can just be an Amazon dropshipper. Do you know how much crap inventory is going to be at your house that you're going to be like sending out, like whatever? Like they're like, oh, you can just drop it, ship it straight from the factory. And then you're like, you got to pay the factory. And then there's like so many 1,000 things that are wrong. And it's also like, oh, well, you can be an affiliate marketer. So do you understand that affiliate marketing only works if you already have a large audience? Volume. And so there's so many things that are positioned as passive income that I think are crummy ideas, not because they don't work, but because they're not passive. They are active income. You have a job, you're doing work. The only, I think, truly passive income strategy, the only, is ownership. You have to own something, whether that be a business that is making you money, whether that be investments in the stock market, whether that be a bond that is paying you interest for having borrowed your money. You have to own something.
It's so true. I got ridiculed on the internet once because I said, well, recently I've said there's no such thing as passive income, except it is actually a tax code. Like there is such a thing as passive income. But what I meant when I said it originally was exactly that passive income doesn't exist in that I put in no money, I put in no time, I have no skills, and I just make money because of this brilliant strategy that somebody came up with. No, but I do own a bunch of businesses that I don't work in at all. And so do I get income checks that I don't work for? Sure. But it takes a lot of upfront work to get that passive income. Although in the stock market, you put the money in and passive income can happen. That is a literal tax bracket. So I totally agree with you.
In the same way that like, you're like, yeah, I'm collecting these checks, but you're not collecting those checks because of something you did just now. You had to put a lot of work in over the years. And it's the same way that it's like, when you hire someone who can do it in 10 minutes, you're not paying for the 10 minutes. You're paying for the years of experience that allowed them to do it in 10 minutes.
That's so true. It's that like Pablo Picasso story. Okay, what I want to end on is, so all of these are incredible tactics. I always wonder, like, why do you think we have such emotional ties to money? Like you have people, I've seen it on the streets when I've hung out with you and we're walking here, somebody will walk up like, my rich BFF, give you a big hug, you're my favorite. And I think you probably also have a lot of the opposite, which is like, this will never work for me. I'll never be rich. I have no money. Like, what has been your experience? Why do we feel like money is so emotionally burdensome to us, or like some of us might never be able to get it?
Because in our society, money is a marker of success. And the way people treat me, I feel like oftentimes is a mirror of how they feel about their own abilities. And so when people are like, thank you so much for teaching me this thing, it's not that they're necessarily just like happy that I exist. They are happy that they have derived value and now see a light. That they're like, I'm going to follow this light. I'm going to make more money. I'm going to become more successful. And they see me as like almost like inspiration, I think, in that like, if I do these things, I too can make this kind of money. And I genuinely believe that if you are implementing the tips that I'm giving out in Well Endowed on social media, I will take you from a place where you previously were to somewhere better. Am I guaranteeing you the sun, the moon, and the stars? Not for everyone, but I promise you, you're going to end it better than you started. On the flip side, when people are like, this will never work, they're super defeatist, they're just like, woe is me. I think that is a projection of them feeling like they aren't deserving or that they've never seen an accurate representation of someone that looks like them succeed. If I'm honest, I think I probably had that mentality for a very long time. Prior to probably meeting my mentor at my first job at JP Morgan, she was the first rich Asian woman I had ever met. And I mean rich, like new Chanel bag every day, click-clacked in on the marble floors with the Gucci stilettos. I thought that was wealth. And I've learned over time that she is incredibly wealthy for a lot of other things other than her fashion collection. But seeing her succeed was the first time I could envision myself in that lived reality. because the only rich people I had met up until that point were all white guys. And I say that lovingly. My husband is a white guy. But it was very hard to picture me in it until I saw it myself.
So true. Actually, you know what? My first rich